Well, what is going to be the professional situation of each of the three INFJ subtypes? Now, when you think of an INFJ subtype, you have to recall that I'm relying on the classification I drew up in the Infinite Soul, which is my new book on the INFJ. And in this particular book, which just came out, and you can get it at the links below, by the way, on leading a rich, fulfilling and purposeful life as an INFJ in the world today, a world that is often hostile to us, so INFJ life in the modern world. In this particular book, I propose to divide, INFJs according to not so much their cognitive makeup, but rather in terms of the kind of lives they lead, the kind of being that they express. And there are three modes of being that I put forward, in the book. One is the adaptive submissive INFJ, the second is the solipsistic INFJ, and the third is the spiritualized or the liberated INFJ. And as we're going to see, the kind of professional situation or business situation you find yourself in is likely to be highly impacted by the kind of mode of being you espouse for yourself, you embrace for yourself. So since the adaptive submissive INFJ is primarily concerned to get along with other people, not create any kind of conflict, it's clear that in a sense they don't prioritize their own subjectivity. Since they don't prioritize their own subjectivity, they're going to experience a kind of aloofness from their innermost desires. So they will be compromising all the time, and it's likely that they will also end up compromising in their professional life. And not necessarily. Some are kind of fortunate, some are kind of lucky, some are just extremely talented at something, and they might still be adaptive submissive but be so talented at something they love that they'll find employment in that particular area, and that's great for them. But there's a lot of adaptive submissive INFJs who I think are going to be in jobs that don't particularly satisfy them, but they feel they have to be in that position because X, Y, and Z, because their family expects them to, because society expects them to have a 9-to-5 job, because, you need to be able to earn a living past a certain age, because X, Y, and Z, to be a normal functional person, you need a job. And so even if it's an admin job that you're not a fan of, that's what you'll do, and you'll compromise. What's interesting is that because, these modes of being are dynamic and there's an evolution through life, it's possible for some adaptive INFJs, perhaps those that are a bit more neurotic, to experience some kind of crisis at some point in their lives. And they might, in fact, sort of flip over into, I think, often a period of solipsism, where there is cynicism about the value of the externalities that the world offers, and a tendency to retreat into yourself and to distrust the world. I think that a lot of the time, solipsistic INFJs go through a phase where maybe they won't be employed for a while, or they'll take a job that is like very, very basic, right? That doesn't really require them to engage with other people, might not pay them a lot, but gives them the sense of independence and not having to engage with the world that they seek, that they crave. And for this reason, you will often find that solipsistic INFJs, they have jobs where like they get to spend as much time by themselves and not having to obey a lot of orders, have managers, experience a lot of constraints. They try to, evade those constraints. Again, even if it means that perhaps their social status won't be as valued from an external standpoint, in the sense they don't care. Now, it's a legitimate question whether either one or the other is a satisfactory state of affairs. In a sense, you have the solipsistic INFJ who is kind of retreating from the world and not engaging socially as much as perhaps would be healthy for them. And then on the other hand, you have the adaptive submissive who engages in a lot of social activity and work activity and has colleagues and interacts with them, but at the same time their whole mode of functioning is defined by adaptation, frustration, and submission. So they're not satisfied either. Now, the spiritualized INFJ or liberated INFJ, the INFJ who has kind of got beyond these contradictions and resolved this notion of alienation and severance, who's able to connect the inner world of NI with the external reality of, state of affairs and people and other subjectivities and constraints. Again, Buddhism really, I think the Buddha is such a perfect symbol of this kind of spiritualized INFJ. But the idea is that I think this kind of INFJ is likely to, they're likely to make peace with a particular walk of life. They're likely to make peace with a particular kind of employment, regardless of what it might be. I mean, you might be tempted to think that this kind of INFJ is more likely to be a teacher, this INFJ is more likely to be some kind of spiritual leader, or a hermit of some kind, or priest, or a monk, or an artist, whatever it might be. This could be the case, but let's keep in mind that, not a lot of people engage in these kinds of activities. So it's actually very much possible that a spiritualized INFJ will embrace a job that at first sight might seem like it's less unique or less peculiar, less special. But from their perspective, because they've been able to overcome severance, because they're able to connect the NI world with external reality, there's a real sense in which they see something unique and special in the everyday, in the mundane, and they can appreciate it. And that's why they can have perfectly normal jobs and thrive doing that. If you read the books of Hermann Hesse, for example, maybe the book that explores this with the most depth is Siddhartha. You notice that in Siddhartha, the enlightened people, they all have jobs that seem like nothing special. But it doesn't matter because they fill that experience with meaning. Okay, so I think that's kind of the view I would articulate at this point to describe how the different subtypes of INFJs according to the Infinite Soul. By the way, if you've got the book but haven't dropped a review, please consider dropping a review because it really helps with the referencing of the book on Amazon. Let me know in the comments what you think and where do you think you stand, and let's continue the conversation, guys. Okay. The Ecstatic Soul is also available, which is the prequel to the Infinite Soul and looks more at the consciousness of INFJs. It has a lot of reviews on Amazon. Check it out if you haven't yet. Get the two books together if you feel like it. And I have a Patreon page too. My patrons are the lifeblood of this channel. They keep this channel going. So please consider donating. You can interact with me there on Patreon. You can make suggestions for new content. We do young readings there. So, you get something, but also you help me keep going. So I really would appreciate it. Okay, see you guys soon. Bye-bye.